Can I Not Marry audio web novel chapter 38, Can't Eat the President's Tofu. When Du Lacey woke up, her head still felt dizzy. She rubbed her temples, then closed her eyes to do a big yawn. When she opened her eyes again, her opened mouth wasn't able to close. Why is the president sleeping besides her? The most shocking thing was that he wasn't even wearing any clothing, only a thin blanket covered the lower part of his body. His evenly toned upper body was exposed. Even if this wasn't the first time Du Lacey have seen his body, but she still felt her blood flowing. Once she was determined she wasn't in her own spring. Dream 1. Du Lacey recomposed herself and began to recall what happened before she fell asleep. She thought and thought. She couldn't recall anything greater than .. At that moment, the president who was lying on the bed suddenly turned over. This one simple turn caused the blanket that originally didn't cover much to slide down, showing the president's tight abs. Breath out. Exhale. Du Lacey's head exploded. An aggregation of warm liquid within her nasal cavity slid down, ready to spew out at any time. In such a situation, not to mention the happenings of yesterday, even her own surname, or what her mom's name was, or whether her dad's is male or female. Du Lacey have forgotten everything. She could only stare dumbfoundedly at the pleasant spring scenery. Within her heart there seems to be a small claw continuously scratching, causing an uncomfortable itch. Scratch, 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 and finally, she couldn't tolerate it. Heaven, earth, she just wants to touch it. Just touching it once was enough. Indulging on your lust is equivalent to hang a knife upon your head too. Ancient people also are honest and do not bully others. Right now, Du Lacey is this exact example of losing her mind under the influence of this bright sword, and revealing her evil claws and placing it on top of the president's chest, gently creasing it. After a few seconds of touching, she suddenly had a feeling she was an immortal trending on air. Heaven, earth, the president's tofu is really fragrant. It's very tender and delicious. Since it's the first time Du Lacey have eaten the president's tofu, she became very excited, evil aroused from her heart. When Lian Jun awake, she was still in the process of eating him. It wasn't easy for her to encounter the president sleeping so soundly. Why wouldn't she eat more of his tofu, to redeem the amount of tofu he has eaten of hers? With such thoughts, Du Lacey increased her courage. She stretched out her claws and touched his lower abdomen the second time. Click 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 asterisk, this feeling is so good. Asterisk click of the tongue. After she finished touching for the second time, she stretched out her demoness claws to his sturdy arms and touched for the third time. Alas, this is too happy to eat tofu, letting one work off their anger. So, Du Lacey was very content eating the president's tofu. Here rub, scratch there, she mercilessly ate back all the tofu he has eaten of hers. After the meal, she still haven't had enough. Compared to the amount the president ate, this little piece of tofu is simply letting him off too easily. So, Du Lacey's eyes were focused at a particular area covered by the blankets. She wondered what the strawberry birthmark would look like. At this time, Lian Jun, who was still soundly asleep, flickered his eyelashes while his eyes were still shut. This is really too much. Even a man's eyelashes is longer than hers. How can she, a woman, endure this? Besides being angry, Du Lacey resolutely extended her claws towards the thin blanket. The moment her claws came into contact of the blanket, a hand suddenly stretched over and surprisingly grabbed her hands. Du Lacey didn't have the time to yell when her entire body had been pulled over and heavily suppressed by another. When she opened her eyes again, the whole blanket has landed on top of her head. Her eyes were covered by darkness. Even breathing surfaced on her face, reaching closer and closer. Have you touched enough? A voice sounded in the air with a hint of teasing. It turns out he wasn't asleep. Needless to say, our poor Du Lacey have been pulled back from the darkness. Ha ha. Enough, enough. Du Lacey guilty hollow laughed. She struggled to withdraw from this dilemma as her hands were helplessly tightened under his pressure. Even her face was in close proximity with his. Even just slightly speaking, her lips would sweep across a soft part of his body. Is it? I don't mind you touching a few more times, he said as he moved his lips moved closer to her ears, consciously or unconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. This action happens to blow into the sensitive part of her ear lobes, instantly causing them to flush, spreading to her face. She knew her neck was also burning up. With great difficulty, Du Lacey tried to swallow her saliva. No need. It's enough. Are you sure? I'm sure, certain. But it seems there's still one place you haven't touched, he said as he caught her by the hand, forced her hands down to a particular hot place on his body. Woo. If she wasn't pressed down by him, Du Lacey really want to find a hole and bury her head into it right now. She was completely embarrassed. Have you touched it? Du Lacey was simmering with angry. She was speechless. Well, do you want to touch it again? Touch. I have touched it. She replied quickly, fearing that he would force her to do something abnormal. Tell me your thoughts. Du Lacey was struck by lightning. Do you think this is a biology class touching a frog? No. No thoughts. Poor Du Lacey was almost driven mad. How about this touch? How does it feel? Ah. Du Lacey finally ran out of tears. T President, you are simply Voldemort, the original ecology of metamorphosis. Now do you have any thoughts, feelings? Yes. Yes. After experiencing such a cruel destruction, Du Lacey finally collapsed. I think, this man is not bad. Poof. Lian Jun slightly choked up. Wifey, you have such a great humor. Feng Chu. You flatter me, such humor is incomparable to your humor, President. This Feng is the madman's Feng, while Chu Chi is the sexual's Chi. Wifey's opinion is so original, you must be also eager to try it, right? No, not at all. Before her words could finish, her mouth has been blocked. It was different to last night overbearing kiss. First the tip of his tongue circled the shape of her lips, then his hands reached into her thin pajamas, slightly using some strength to knead her. Her screams was covered by his kisses, their breathing merged together as their minds unbearable fuzzed out. The deep kisses, coupled with his nimble fingers' activities, every surface he touched ignited sparks, fire was busily spreading, and eventually started a prairie fire. Every part of her body was heating up, scorching hot, even her fingertips there were no exception. No, don't. Du Lacey tried to call out, however each time she said a word, his kisses would deepen a few points, finally to the point she couldn't utter a single word, only groans of ecstasy could be heard as a response to his soft gradual touches. Be good and part your legs a little. Him? No. Ah. Be good. Call out. No, don't. Oh. He used more forced thrusting forward. Ah. Honey, what did you say? Don't what? Oh. He quickened his speed up. Ah. You said ah. He suddenly stopped moving. T. No. Don't stop. Someone was going hysterical because she was breaking down. What's the normal scene after a moment of passion? A man sitting on the bed spitting out rings of smoke, while the shy woman raises her head staring longingly at the man as she asked him, you would take responsibility for me, right? You can be rest assured, from now onwards you are mine. The above are the normal circumstances, however in our story these circumstances were not normal. Take now for example, deceive people. Du Lacey was crouching like a quail, while using her finger to draw circles on the bed sheets. Grandma, you lied to me. The president's ass birthmark is shaped like a pineapple. What's wrong? Suddenly a hand stretched over and embraced her into his arms. Du Lacey remained silent. Well, she refused to speak with the hoodlum. Angry, Lian Jun crooked his mouth and ambiguously asked, clearly just now you were the one who told me not to stop. Shameless. Obscene. Don't you want to know what's my relationship with the CO siblings ***. Du Lacey's interest was finally successfully brought back. Seeing her confused expression, wanting to ask however didn't know how to, appearance, he finally softened, letting out a sigh as he slowly explained, in fact, they are my dad's children from another marriage. Well, she had to admit this often occurs in melodramatic stories. So before entering the VCR replay please remember to have an umbrella ready in order to avoid being caught in the cold dog blood shower. Greater than VCR begins to replay greater than after Xiao Lishi and Lian Anna's chance encounter. Xiao Lishi's appearance and decent manner captivated Miss Lian's heart favor. Despite the discouragements of her parents, Lian Anna decided to profess her love for Xiao Lishi. However at that time, Xiao Lishi was only a small deputy manager at Lian Enterprise. He was young, ambitious, he was full of talent only lacking the support of the higher-ups. But with Lian Anna's love confession this caused him to enter the stage the fastest, but also the most efficient way. He hesitated for a long time before he decided to marry this woman. Marrying the only daughter of a wealthy family, the difficulty is equivalent to one trying to marry into one. After they got together they received pressure from all sides. It wasn't until Xiao Lishi clearly stated that he would marry into the Lian family and their future child will follow Lian Anna's surname did Lian Anna's parents reluctantly agree to the marriage. 6 months after their marriage, because of Xiao Lishi's outstanding management abilities reversing Lian Enterprise losses did he finally gain his father-in-law's recognitions. A year later, their child was born. In order to fulfill his promise, the child followed Lian Anna's surname, given name Jun. However, based on the inequality of their marriage, it was like a house without a foundation. One could foreseen it would eventually collapse. After 3 years into their marriage, the two of them only had mutual respect between husband and wife while their feelings weaken. They couldn't pinpoint where it has been wrong, however it just didn't feel right. Leanne Anna was someone who have long been influenced by the Western culture. She had an independent mind of a woman. When she discovered her marriage was beyond repair, she suggested a divorce. I know you don't love me, so now I'm letting you go, however I have one request, leave Jun for me. Seo Lee Shi stared at this woman who he had spent full 3 years with. She was still exactly the same as when they first met, still so beautiful and moving with those pair of stubborn eyes. However, the only difference is those pair of eyes no longer had confidence and trust in him. I'm sorry. He only left those words before turning to leave, not taking 1 penny of the Lians, also leaving behind his precious son with his ex-wife. He knew that she needed this son more than him. After Seo Lee Shi left the Lian family, he started from scratch, using his work experience and keen professional sense he gained from working at Lian Enterprise. Within a year he founded his own company. From there his business gradually grew bigger and bigger. A few years' times his company was listed and his future was limitless. While his love blossom also gradually germinated, blossom and bear fruits within the 2nd year of establishing his company. The woman was the partner founder of his company. Together they put great amounts of efforts, planning and creative into the company, then rightfully got together. After their children was born. A pair of twins, boy named Seo Yin, while the girl was named Seo Chia. Although, Seo Lee Shi had a new family, and also children of his own, however he still could never forget about the child he and Leanne Anna had together. His precious son. Even in death he would never willingly let him go. After the stability of his company, he often went to see Lian Jun. Sometimes Lian Anna would also come along. The way to got along was very strange. They were once a married couple who shared the same bed. Meeting once again the couple neither fight nor reminisce the old days. They were just two people who knew each other, never more than that. Later, when Seo Yin and Seo Chia learned to walk, Seo Lee Shi often took them out to see their older brother. The three of them didn't understand the complicated adult issues. They haven't been acquainted with each other for long, so they didn't know what was their relation. They only called each other by their names like friends. This habit did not change even when Lian Jun returned from abroad. People always say that marriage needs intellect and reasons. Lian Anna's marriage came to end due to their excess blindness. However, sometimes marriage doesn't require much intellect and reasons. Take Seo Lee Shi for example. He took too many considerations outside of his marriage and love, so he finally made mistakes to one woman's life. Marriage is really an elusive thing.